Okay, well, I think that we're going to get started here. This is the July meeting of the Sandbrook HOA2 Finance Committee, and it is a special meeting, as is our habit, as is our practice in the past. We're going to be going over items that new and proposed CAPEX items, capital expenditure items, and for the purposes of this meeting, regular order is suspended. Questions or comments are welcome from anyone present. If you're going to comment, I'd ask you to be brief, and brief is important here, and announce their affiliation. If you're a member of the staff, a club, or a resident, residents are asked to provide their unit and lot number. There will be no votes taken during this meeting. The committee is here essentially to get some exposure, ask some questions, and try to give us the information we need to be deliberative about making a responsible recommendation to the board. And there's an incredible amount of work that's gone into this thing, so I want to acknowledge that. I want to say thank you to Darren for getting out the reserve study. We appreciate it. I know it's an incredible amount of work. So I will call this meeting to order. We are all welcome here. I think that it's appropriate to introduce ourselves. So my name is Ray Adams, and I chair the Finance Committee.
I'm Gene Airport, member of the Finance Committee.
Joe Staceco, Finance Committee.
Lori LeClaire, Finance Committee.
Chairman Shaw, staff.
Matt Candick, director.
Sorry.
Okay, it's not on Larry Santor, director. Where's the bottom? Who's the bottom? Oh, there you go.
I'm Darren Shaw, COO.
Chuck Hill, Director.
Brad Nickham, director and liaison to Finance Committee.
Terry Dempsey, Director of Finance.
Doug Fletcher, member.
Okay. I'm not going to ask the residents to introduce themselves or the staff members. I think we've got a sheet.
Yeah, we have a sheet. If you haven't signed that sheet.
So just make sure that you sign it. We're going to move directly to old business. And the first thing we want to do is review those items that historically show up when we do this, but are really non-CAPEX items. And there are a number. Charlie, you got that up on the screen? Okay. I just want to go over these very briefly. The Employee Appreciation Committee is a standing event. ALC is a reserve requirement. And I know that it says provide refreshments to committee members. That's not really what it is. They host regular meetings with HOA1, and that's a paid-for event. And that constitutes the bulk of the money that's shown there. The library is an annual support issue. The annual volunteer appreciation lunches as well. The other items that are shown on the list. Now those items are standard, and it should probably be part of the regular operating budget. And if we can find a way to make sure that happens, kind of gets them out of the way, we don't have to fuss with them anymore. The other items that are listed, there's an aquatone water aerobics for $250. I'm told that this is an unsanctioned class. Consists of about 50 people who rotate use this thing on a regular basis. We were commenting a little earlier that a donation of $5 a piece would probably take care of the problem. It's certainly not something that we're going to consider capital expenditure. There is a request for succulents to add cactus. There's no dollar amount associated with that. There was no estimate. Same thing for the Sonoran Desert plantings. There is an item from the Glass Art Club, which they would like to donate $500 for. All of these items, without objection or without comment, will be referred back to operation for their consideration. And they have the opportunity to say yea or nay. My guess is that they will probably approve most of these items. Is that a fair assessment, Derek? Okay, good. Done. Any comments from anyone? Chime in? Anybody want to donate $5? Okay. All right. I know this is going to be a tough test, and we were afraid it was going to be from the beginning. So I'll try to make sure that everyone has an understanding of what we're doing. If you have the crowd up here a little bit to see what's going on the screen, feel free to do that. The first item on the list for old business, and this is CAPEX, capital expenditures is included in the new reserve study. First item is from softball. This is, I think, the first request that they have ever made. And it appears to be a placeholder. It's $20,000 essentially to inspect and repair as required the roofs that are located on all of their buildings. There's no quote provided for that. Darren, do you have any comments about that?
I don't have any comments. Ray, as you said, it's a placeholder. We haven't made that work out. We know what needs to be done. So we're going to put some money aside for it.
Okay. So somebody's taken a look at it and decided that there really is an issue.
Correct.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Is it in the reserve study now in 20K? Yeah. Okay, cool. It was not in the prior reserve study. I'm curious what I have never seen the contract between the softball club and HOA2, so I'm curious what responsibilities we had for things that they've in the past done everything themselves. This is something kind of new. I'm just curious what our responsibilities are overall.
So the board earlier this year took a good look at all the license agreements that it had, and I think there were 7 at the time. And the board decided to reduce those license agreements to 4, the softball club being one of them. And when that license agreement was renegotiated, maintenance is called out for these items as an association's responsibility moving forward, and that decision was made by the board.
Are there any others?
Any others what?
Any other things that anything else that we're responsible for that we have not been responsible for?
No, I think with softball, this is a change. They made I think they made the horseshoes and amenities, so we'll be incurring some costs to repair some things down there. There's 4 license agreements now. There's the cycle club, there's softball, dog park, computer. So those are the 4 license agreements that we made right now. We have no responsibility to replace anything for the other 3.
Okay. The second cluster of items there are all from residents, and rather generally, they don't have a quote provided or cost associated with them. I don't think the finance committee is going to be able to do much with that. There is an item from Ann Teacher regarding meeting room chairs here at Mountain View, and that's a replacement issue. Is Roger Beard here? If you're not here, raise your hand. I'm not sure, but I suspect that may be part of an item that is being considered by the facilities group.
Facilities group is looking at furniture in this entire building right now. Right, the plan is to order the furniture Q4 this year and hopefully get it by Q1 2026. So these chairs are included in that inventory.
All right. Okay, we have a couple of IT items. This is remove cameras, server, and switch for the security cameras, and put the voice system on voice over IP. It's $117,000. Comments, questions? Okay,
Right?
I saw Alan. Go ahead.
Before you move on from that, my opinion is that the camera system can be pushed a year. I don't think it's going to make a difference if we replace it in 26 or we replace it in 27. So my recommendation would be to push that back to 27.
Okay, you're talking about the meeting room?
The camera system.
Oh, the camera system. Yeah.
Are we replacing, there are two elements to that system. There's the control boxes, the DVRs, all of that, and then the individual cameras. Are we looking at replacing all the cameras or just the Titan box?
The entire system. The entire system. So far as I know, it's functioning properly right now. I don't know that we've had any problems with it. But this is a replacement cost for the entire system. The cameras that we're using, a lot of them are older cameras. We might be able to bring some forward. A lot of the cameras are probably 8, 10, 12 years old. There's different technology out there. And if you replace the system, I think you want to have the cameras and the system replaced together.
Do we own those current Titan boxes, or that? I saw something about a lease. There's some leasing in there.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I think we own them. I can confirm them.
Okay, I was curious what the elements were that it looked like there could be some savings because we were leasing something or had a contract with on some of that.
Sure. Well, we have time to look at it if we push it back to 27.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I saw Alan Lambert slip in here. The next item is a kitchen exhaust bid. At least what I got out of the write-up was that it is not currently working properly. Is that correct?
After speaking with maintenance, this item actually needs to be moved to 2027.
2027.
Want to move that to 2027?
Yes, sir.
That's a pretty big project back there because you want to increase the size of that hood. It's a pretty significant construction project to do that. It's functioning properly now, but they could use a little bit more space on the line. So
Do you think it properly costed $60,000?
that I don't know. Is it properly costing $60,000?
Yes.
Yes.
I understand we're saying we're going to make it to 27, but we have a new reserve study out. So since we're saying these are supposed to be pushed back or be covered by the reserve study, does the new reserve study show that it's 27 or 26?
I'm going to push it 26.
Okay, so you're going to go just
Sure.
the reserve study. Got it.
One of the benefits of bringing the reserve study in-house is we have full flexibility to move things around. It's much easier to work with.
Okay, so you're just going to make the adjustments yourself?
Correct.
Fantastic.
That's good, thanks, Jerry. Okay, the next item is traffic lights and traffic logic radar signs. So those are new locations, Dale?
Yeah, these are the remaining two old flashing speed signs. Replacing them with our newer ones that collect the data. they were scheduled for 2027, I'd like to move them up to 2026.
And you can pull the date if it needs without the scroll?
Yes.
Okay, any other questions? Comments? Okay. Okay, we're down to Bill McGinn, who has a lengthy list. The first of the items on his list, is ready to do battle. The first of those items is to repurpose the barbecue grill at the Mesquite Patio Bar. I got an email from Janine that said the facilities committee was considering an alternative use for that. Do you know about that, or are you on board with it?
We're talking about the Mesquite Bar and Grill. No, I don't know anything about the facility committee doing anything with the Mesquite Bar and Grill.
Okay.
Or with the Mesquite patio.
Well, part of the, at least as I understand it, part of the reason for a facilities committee in the first place is to try to make sure that we don't get ahead of ourselves, make a change that somebody else would make. I know they're changed to, very quickly. So, at a minimum, I would ask that we find the opportunity to talk to Janine, make sure that Roger Beard, who is the chair of that committee, and make sure that we're not cross purposes here.
Right, I agree with that. And a couple of my things that we were looking at, I kind of, and I talked with Darren, that we were trying to go ahead and make sure that any changes that I do coincide with what we're going to do in the future. This actually right here was something that we came up with. This was more of a, it's looking run down over there. I don't know if you guys have been over to the Mesquite patio in a while, but some of the.
That's a good idea. Those things have been operating forever.
Yeah, and then we're trying to make use of that little area. But what do you think, Darren? Do we need to talk to Janine?
Well, like Bill said, these suggested improvements are pretty much preventative maintenance, right? It needs painting. The deck needs to be recoated and cleaned up. We want to get those grills out of there that we don't use. Maybe put some ice chests in there so we can repurpose them as a bar area. But we're not changing that area's programming at all. It's just maintenance work that needs to be done.
Okay. Well, again, just a suggestion that you folks spend a little time to make sure that we're in sync with what the folks at facilities are interested in.
Right.
The next three items are interesting.
Right.
Do we have a representative in tennis?
Right. Could I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Could we stick to the previous subject? We have a history in the past of changing things and then regretting it later. And I don't know what the vision is for this area. I don't have any idea what facilities planning committee has on their mind either. But that said, $73,000 to repair something that maybe we're going to tear out to do something else down the road is, I suspect, the thought process that Janine is raising. So as we're going through this process, I'm trying to step back and let you guys go, but it's not clear to me, like when we just finished that topic, what was resolved?
What my intention is to get additional information once these two folks have collaborated, and if they've decided on a single change, single thing, then that's fine. If they have not, then we need to put it on.
So the finance committee will then summarize what their stance is on
Yes.
every one of these after you've gone through it.
Yes.
That's perfect.
Okay, next three items are tennis. Was there a tennis club representative here? That's surprising because they've historically shown up. I know that they've tried for the last 2 years to get their tennis courts resurfaced. And we have 3 now that are on there, and they're expensive. Did one just get terribly much worse, or did we cut that down to 2?
Well, this is something that Darren and I also discussed.
Did we get a cost break if we do 3?
Well, what we would like to do is probably split it over the next 3 years. We have walked these courts, Darren and I have put eyes on them. They are in bad repair. They're also one of the first things that you see when you pull into our compound here at Mountain View. I like to refer to them as our low-income housing playgrounds. But they're looking rough, they need paint, they need to be resurfaced. You can see that compared to the other two courts that they did a few years ago, these actually have some kind of, in my opinion, a little bit of a safety issue because a lot of the asphalt is waving and cracking. Could be a possible trip, running into the fences, they're starting to peel and they could get stuck and scratched. A lot of rust out there, but we realized that $155,000 to redo one court, could get quite costly, if we did all three of them at one time. We would entertain looking at doing, and I agree, doing them throughout the next few years. Is that just statement there? Yeah, so, but I mean, if we could get, it was slated for all three of them to be done. We pushed this down the road, I understand, for the last 3 years. So I don't know how much further we want to push it, but I do agree that maybe doing one this year, and then one next year, and the year after. If we could slate it that way, I'd be okay with that too.
Next, that's good.
Months ago, there was talk of converting some of these tennis courts to pickleball, and the argument was they weren't getting used. Now it's a chicken and the egg situation. Are they not getting used because they're not in good repair? But again, it just raises the issue is maintaining things the way they are when maybe they're not getting utilized and they can be used for something else. And I'm not suggesting they should be used for pickleball. It's just that as we're going through this process, I know what our economic constraints are, and we have to get out of the mindset where we're just automatically doing things when the entire community has listened for months that the argument was we didn't even need them for tennis courts. I understand they're an amenity and we have to maintain them. It's just that it's a soft area.
Brad, if I can real quick. Again, when I went through all these and we decided what we were going to do this year as far as reserve budget, I kept in my mind the study that we just recently did last year for the improvements around the areas, and I wanted to make sure that anything that I put in was something that we could use or repurpose along with the man study. The surface of these courts are bad. It's just the way, whether we use them for tennis, pickleball, another cornhole court, I don't know, whatever we're doing. But my thought is if we're going to keep those courts, definitely the surface area itself needs to be repaired, one way or the other.
Just a quick question, so when you're looking at repurposing, say go to pickleball, will it resurface when you change it from a tennis court to a pickleball court? Will you have to do damage to what you just put the $154,000 into?
No, if we repurpose as a pickleball court, it's just mainly repainting, it's resurfacing. It's not a complete post-tension court. Post-tension is going to last us a lot longer than it is with the pavement that they have in there right now.
So let me give you some history. These tennis courts were not built the way those two new tennis courts were built, the post-tension. When they were rebuilt, they were built to last a long time. These ones that got put in here, the reason why they're in bad shape, because they're not post-tension, right? And so our obligation is to fix what needs to be repaired, all right? And those tennis courts are in need of repair.
One of the things we talked about in one of the previous meetings, and I forget what the percentage was, but if we repaired all these, let's say we did them all next year, what percentage of time are all of our tennis courts used? Because I drive by there on the nicest of days, and I very seldom see more than one or two people on those tennis courts.
Well, generally, tennis club has got a pretty comprehensive reservation system. I think it's just a matter of asking them if we're interested in, you know, what the occupancy levels are and whether or not we've got too many courts or not enough. That we should be able to get to an answer.
Well, they're going to be used. I have no problem fixing them over the next 3 years. But
Yeah.
to fix them when 98% of the time they're not used, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense of the investment of the HOA.
I'd like to emphasize on the base that they do have a reservation system, and if you review that, you will have a better idea of whether those courts are needed. I know that, I don't know what the current status is, but when we had all the noise with pickleball a number of years ago, I actually spent some time going down there and cross-checking their reservation system with what was actually on the court. I found it to be quite accurate. I also found that there was never anything, there was always a vacancy to play outside of a 2-hour prime window. So if somebody wanted to play after that 2-hour or before that 2-hour prime window, there were always courts, and there were frequently courts even during that prime time. Now we've added pop tennis. I don't know what the current status is, but I think that needs to be reviewed.
That was done recently when tennis and pickleball had that meeting. It was attended by, a couple hundred people. They came up with the percentages that they're being used, and the tennis courts very seldom are fully used, very seldom. So I look at this and I go, the plan to do it over 3 years is probably a good plan. It wouldn't hinder the tennis people from playing. But the question comes up, Bill, that if you do this over 3 time periods, the windscreens and the new fencing, that would be over the 3 years also, wouldn't it? Because you wouldn't want to do a new fencing and everything and then rip out the concrete. So.
Okay, because just to kind of, I spoke to the sports guy, and different prices, you know, of course, if we bundle, we get cheaper. But, in the future, you know, everything's going to get more and more pricey. But you are right, Larry, that we do one court at a time. We would do the fencing and the poles and the lighting all at the same time during that, and hopefully that would get us a cost reduction as well if we bundled the full court into one. Brad?
Yeah, going back to what Matt said, as far as I understand things, that we are obligated to maintain these tennis courts.
Sure.
And while things may not be fully utilized now, looking a few years down the road, many of our tennis players currently play at HOA 1 tennis facility, and that could change. I didn't mean to pick on tennis, nor did I mean to pick on whatever the first topic was. It's just we're going through this process, and it's not clear to me how we get to a point where we no longer repeat the mistakes we had in the past. And this back and forth is good, and that's what we need on all these so that you guys can come up with your opinion.
Ray?
Okay,
Ray? Somebody would like to make a comment?
Janet Fabio, Unit 25, Block 55. I'm an active member of the tennis club, and I was at the meeting and involved in the, not involved, but aware of everything that happened with that meeting with pickleball, when Fitness, Wellness, and Recreation was looking at the courts. And I just want to say the reason that those 3 Mountain View courts are not being used right now is because they're the last ones assigned because they're not very safe to play on. So unless we need all of the courts, they're the very last ones to be assigned. And so we appreciate, and I'm really surprised no one from the club is here because this has been an issue for quite a long time. And we appreciate that you're looking at refurbishing those. And also that study with pickleball, they answered most of the questions you're asking here. So somebody needs to go back and talk to Fitness, Wellness, and Recreation because they have all the data that was presented from both clubs as well as from the community members. So somebody just needs to look at that. And I think I will answer your questions about the utilization of the courts. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
So can I get a clarification, just for Joe and I can all go back and forth? So this list here is showing, like, if you look at column I, that in 2026 was the plan. Does that mean that's what's in the reserve study that was just released?
Yes.
Okay. So really, they're talking about adjusting the reserve study again to push this out.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
So currently, they're slated to be done in 2026. They were pushed, I believe, from 2022.
Got it.
Yeah.
Actually, look at the reserve study, the new reserve, the current reserve study, that is the previous one, shows in 2026. The new reserve study has them staggered over 3 years.
So, as Bill mentioned, we went out and walked those courts because I wanted to see what we were putting money away for and make sure that it was reasonable. And all 3 of these courts need to be replaced, regardless of how often they're used, right? There's going to be peak times for everything. And I'd like to remind the committee that the board's ultimate responsibility is to maintain its common facilities. These 3 courts, they do need it. And I don't think we need to do them all in 1 year. I think as long as we have a plan, maybe schedule fences and courts one at a time, 26, 27, 28. At least we have a plan in place in case somebody gets hurt, pulls a liability card. We have a plan in place that should fix it.
Let me, until we get to 2031, whether or not we spend money that we have to spend in 26 or 27 or 28, doesn't really matter.
I understand.
And if the synergies are meaningful to do them all at once, Bill, that's where I would vote. Okay. I don't mean to attack the project, I'm just attacking the process.
Well, okay, no comment. Okay, we're down to replacement of cool deck paint. I don't have any. Well, I think
the next 2,
light poles, Quinn Street.
right, I think those are.
Run in tandem with the.
Yeah.
You've got, you want to replace the fencing on the 3 courts. My understanding is the 2 courts we just did, the fencing was not replaced, it was reinstalled. Am I incorrect?
So what happened, what I understand, on the 2 courts that were just redone a couple of years ago, is that what you're talking about? Is that what you're asking me, Doug?
Yeah, was the fencing replaced? Because what I saw on the invoice indicated they just reinstalled the existing fencing.
No, what happened was, from my understanding, was they painted all the poles and the lights, and they put new fencing material around it. And that's what they're suggesting here on this one, is to pull all the old fencing off and repaint the poles and the lights.
Okay, I just,
Yeah,
it was not clear to me that it was done when I looked at the invoice. Thank you.
Yeah, all the coating on the fencing is just peeling off.
Okay. Designate deck furniture. Replace the liner of the lap pool. I don't have any issues with those. I understand that they're in the reserves. Any comments? Okay, we're down to the perimeter wall paint and the unit wall paint. Now those are both in there for $100,000 this year. At least I understand that they'll both be in there for $100,000 this year. Is that correct, Gary?
Can I comment on that? Okay. So, we're on the walls, and I don't know my papers screwed up here. Okay. So, Darren and I talked about this at length, really, the wall project, and we've done a plan this year, basically. So, I kind of redid what was done previously. I had to combine, we were looking at CNRs. CNRs were saying that we were supposed to maintain these walls every 7 years. policy, every 7 years. We were currently doing them every 10 years, which would basically reduce the upfront cost, but would cause a bigger problem in wall deterioration and issues that we were having with the paint and everything peeling off. Those of you that drive around notice it a lot because I get a call about every other week about, hey, you gotta come fix my wall. So I redid the plan. I actually have a couple of things here if you guys want to look over. But it's a new plan, it's for 7 years, and we also did a new breakdown, a new contract, basically a paint spec that when I hire a contractor, I make sure that they see this paint spec and they have to follow it. Inside this little thing, there's a little letter in there that brings it all down. But what I'm trying to do this year, and talking to Darren, is you notice that we added a new line item for the walls. We were discussing, should this fall under operations or should this fall under reserve? Because I do the reserve painting and repair of the perimeter and the unit walls, but I got a lot of walls that I have to go back and kind of repair, look at, take care of, things that I'm trying to catch up on the contractors. So what you're seeing is for the normal $200,000, that's basically because I had expanded. I went from doing, if you look at the list, I went from doing maybe 1 or 2 units at a time to now we're doing about 4 or 5 units every 7 years. I did cut it down a couple times, so this is going to fluctuate every year. It's not going to be a continuous $100,000 every year. This year it just happened to come out to where I need $100,000 for the walls, for the unit walls and the perimeter walls, because it's a lot of wall that we have. I'm currently measuring all the walls, so I can't give you exact numbers right now as far as square footage, but I will have that number probably by November, December this year on every unit, on how much we're going to be spending, and then I can break it down to how much a square foot we're going to pay to have it painted. But with that, that's why the expense is where it's at right now. So I'll take questions now. I just wanted to lay that out.
So isn't this an operating expense and not a CapEx? I mean, by definition,
this is something I'm going to have Terry answer.
So yes, at the end of the year, it becomes an operating expense for reserves. So it'll go on a reserves expense line. So, but what we do is we collect it as a reserve item since it's on the reserves as we're going through the year. And at the end of the year, or when projects are completed, we'll do a reclass on that.
Thanks, that makes sense.
Well, my concern is you're going to take it out of ops, you're going to have a highly variable ops budget from year to year.
We're not taking it out of ops.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to thank you, Bill. We've had a tendency for some items to use as much money as was available and then call it good. And that's, I think, this is a good example of where that's happened. There's a fixed amount of money in the reserves, and they spent it, but they didn't get to the point where they did everything they should have done. I will note that the only thing that's in the current reserve study is the ones for this year. In other words, how much was spent?
It's every 7 years in there, Doug.
It's not the one I'm looking at.
I'm sorry, Doug, just that kind of, and that's another thing that Terry, me and Darren are working on, and Ray. Once I get the numbers, the square footage of the walls, I'd be able to give you the 7-year breakdown more accurately. Because I'll be able to price it out per square foot, per unit, per year.
All right, thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a tremendous amount of sense.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I wanted to see. Thank you.
In a previous meeting, Darren had raised the question of the metal fences and whether or not we should be or shouldn't be doing those. Do we have any clarity on that?
So we contacted the lawyers, and how it was written down, and I didn't bring it with me, I should have, and I'll get it to you folks. Basically, we are not responsible for the wrought iron. We are responsible for the block wall. It's basically what we're responsible.
The outside of the cat.
Thank you. Oh, that was easy. That's it? No. So the other question that I had was, or other request that I had was for a $40,000 repair in the reserve. And this is the item that's 4.061. This is the one that I didn't know if I needed to request it during my operations fund meeting or if I should put it under a repair. Because here's basically what's happening. Stucco's falling off the walls. Walls are cracking, whether it's due to weather, tree limbs, what have you. But it's an added expense to me that I can't calculate, if that makes sense. So talking to Darren and Ray, we were trying to figure out how I can get the expense of these walls, which fall under the reserve budget, but also be able to get out and repair. I'm working on 8 contracts right now to go just make repairs on walls, and it's going to run me roughly about another 22,000 basically. It will probably, if I keep trying to keep it going, it's going to run me about $25,000 this year, just in minor wall repair, fixing concrete. I know a lot of the residents. You guys have all seen the walls. You guys yourselves have seen the walls. They need paint, they need fixing, and we're trying to take care of it. But the question is where do I put this money? Do I put it in ops or do I put it in reserve?
Bill, the previous comment you just made, if my neighbor and I have a block wall 5 foot high, and my neighbor has a 2-foot block wall with wrought iron, the HOA will fix or repair or paint the outside of my block wall, but will not touch the wrought iron from a neighboring wall? Is that what you said?
Correct. So what happens is we will fix the block that supports the iron wall that's underneath it, but because there's so many diverse colors on the wrought iron, it's difficult. If I paint it, I'm painting it Saddlebrook wall too. But then that wouldn't be, we're not responsible for the inside of the wall. So it would look kind of, but it's, where do we end? Where do we go? Where do we start?
So that $40,000 is basically just a contingency bucket, just to have money available should we have to do some bigger wall repair. If we don't have to do it, we're not going to spend that money. I'd like to remind everybody here too, the reserve plan is a funding plan, not a spending plan, right? So we fund and we schedule these funds to replace certain things, but a lot of times when the schedule comes due and we look at something, maybe we get another year, maybe we can extend it out, maybe it's not the right time to do it. So that's why we have carry forwards at the end of the year generally, because of scheduling and because things might not need to be done. But if we don't have the money, we can't do the work, right?
So, to your question about how do you account for it, to me, the wall repair / paint is all the same thing. You're trying to refresh the common area walls every 7 years or whatever. And the 40,000 should be part of a reserve expenditure.
What we can tell you is that a lot of the painting work that's been done out here in the past has not been quality work. In fact, we've had paint suppliers out here that have come out to look at the conditions and won't even warranty their coating on the walls. So the work wasn't done in a lot of cases properly, and we're having to go back and fix that.
We have that with our houses too.
Again, I go back to, we put a comprehensive paint spec together and contract that enables us to make sure the contractors are doing what they're supposed to do, proper procedures, wash, prep, things of that nature.
Okay, the next items are all like.
Wait, I'm just gonna, because that's not working. I've been going through the files for each helmet, the ALC of all the enhancements they've done. And in a lot of the older ones, I'm not seeing any more recent ones, but a lot of the older ones, the homeowner increased the
Okay, so,
I think that's what it says, but I don't know that we have a record of that work. So I don't know. I don't know if Bill knows either.
so depending on where the wall was built up at, if it's in between two homes, that's on the owners anyway. In the common area, if they put in for an ALC request an extension, then we're taking care of it after, as far as at our side of the wall. Now, anything on the inside, a resident is responsible for. So, for instance, we're working on Unit 14 right now. I've got a crack in the wall that I have to get repaired. I'm repairing it during this time that we're repainting everything. But the inside of the wall, the repair is going to happen, but the homeowner is responsible for it. Now, here's where the difference comes in. When I have to go make a repair, just like I'm doing right now, just when that's what the $40,000 is, half of the repair goes to the homeowner, according to our bylaws and our CNRs. So, for instance, if I pay $8,000 to a contractor, the homeowner pays $4,000 of that back and comes back to us. Which is what we just found out, over reviewing a few things. So, I don't know anything about the extensions of the walls. I do know there's a certain height that they can go to, but anything on our side of the wall, on the common area side of the wall, we'll take care of.
Yeah, it was just interesting because it literally says if you raise that wall, you are not responsible.
If they paint it the same color, you never know, right?
Right.
Yeah. But it'd be interesting now in hindsight, when you guys were doing that, maybe to start a list of people that had that, so then we would know, right? I mean, but over 20 years, it's hard to track that.
It is.
Yeah.
It's very hit or miss too.
Bill, I know you're new, but just curiosity, have the HOA ever maintained the wrought iron in the history of Southbrook?
Talking to Ray Kuhn and Walter, and so far I've noticed, I don't think HOA2 has ever taken care of the wrought iron.
So this is not a change in policy, it's always been this way ever since the first wrought iron went up?
From what I can understand, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I had some questions when I came on, so I had our attorney waiting to give us a legal opinion on what our responsibilities were, and that's what was confirmed.
Yeah, it just might be a good idea to let all the residents know that they're responsible for that.
Okay, we've got a couple pickleball items there. I'm not going to belabor that unless someone wants to talk about it.
Yes.
The new wave pool is, kind of begs the question, what are we doing now?
Pickleball.
Okay. All right, drag me back to pickleball.
Yeah, and I see Ron sitting over here. I received private emails from more than, I guess, a couple of board members that aren't here today. And pickleball is a hot button topic as far as who pays for what, etc. The question that comes up is, on the facilities that we own, forget how we got to this point, it's irrelevant. For the facilities that we own, apparently they're generating a substantial amount of free cash flow for SPA. And SPA keeps coming to us, what about this, what about this, what about this? It always drums up controversy. And this is also an area that is going to be an area of attention relating to things leading up to 2029. The question I have is, why is it we assume that HOA2 should pay for anything beyond the extent of what our asset can generate in revenue to cover, putting aside any short-term agreements we have which can be changed in a year?
Asking me? Okay. I thought this was a board thing.
I'm kind of looking at Darren here.
They have money to pay for this.
Well, in this case, it's in our reserve expenditure, okay? So we just skipped it, trying to go to the next one. And the question is there's roughly 36, 22, there's about $52,000 here. And the question is why should HOA2 pay anything when those funds exist from the operations of pickleball?
Brad, what does the lease agreement say that we just drew up? Because that's really what has to drive it. Whether we agree with it or not. For this year. But then why don't we correct it? If you don't like it, then you gotta correct it.
Talking about next year.
We're saying your SPA has more excess reserves than Celebrate does.
Regarding pickleball, yeah.
There seems to be an issue here because SPA has been able to collect from dues, which incidentally every club does. Their dues are obviously much higher than most other clubs. I don't know what they are, but obviously they are. They would be able to collect that kind of money. But we collect no money from tennis. We collect no money from swimming.
Those are amenities.
And is not pickleball an amenity?
It is an amenity.
I'm sorry?
I thought the way it was all put together originally, it's an amenity.
It is an amenity.
Yeah.
Here's the point. We get revenue from wherever we can. We do that in businesses, and we do that as this community. There's a lot of things that do not generate revenue, let alone net income. The question I'm raising is, should we just be automatically assuming that HOA2 should be paying to maintain this amenity when user fees are more than covering it? And then not only do they more than cover it, then they come to us and they say, we want you to build something else that you're going to have to maintain forever. You know, where does it end?
Well, I guess the answer to that question is, should we set the dues for every club, every facility, and
to the extent that supply and demand will generate the revenue, you can't force something that isn't
no, I
economically
realize that, but
sustainable.
I suspect that tennis will also generate revenue if it was required. Now, the problem, of course, is that we then get into the interface between HOA2 and HOA1, we could get away with it with pickleball simply because HOA2 owns all pickleball courts. That's not the case with HOA tennis.
All I'm obligated to try to underscore right here is that we have tens of thousands of dollars that HOA2 membership, if this stays in the reserve, expenditures for next year that HOA2 people are going to pay for. And what I'm asking is where do we draw that line? Should this stay in there? That's why we're here.
This is a request for a repair. The other items should be talked about later. This particular repair here for redoing the courts, I ask my wife all the time how the old courts are doing because we had them redone with the acrylic last time and it was supposed to last a much longer period of time. She tells me the surface is fine. So if the surface is fine, maybe the old schedule was based on the first surface that was put in. So if the surface is good, why would you redo it now instead of letting it go until it needed to be done?
That works too.
So I agree with the surface. I did do eyes on it, and I talked to Ron about it. I think, it's really not necessary to get the services done right now, but, okay, a little caveat. You see the photos that I attached to that, the fencing on the pickleball courts, it's worse than the tennis courts we have here. You're looking at safety issues down there. We're looking at things that need to be upgraded. not to be for just the aesthetics of it, but I think for more of a safety issue and functionality. And any of this, the cornhole people here know, I'm not a big fan of the windscreens. They tear our posts up. The posts that were put in weren't the accurate posts that should have been put in to accommodate the windscreens that we have. But using those windscreens forces our netting, the fencing to be bowed out, takes away the coating of the fencing, and
I believe.
yeah. So if we're going to do anything, if we push the surface, I have resurfacing, I have no problem with that. This is an item that was pushed from this year to next year, because it was all three of them were in there last year. I remember bringing this up.
I mean, I really think the only issue here is, do we want to pay for it, or do we want pickleball to pay for it? You know, they've got the money, they ought to be able to pony up something. So, that's a different kind of question.
Sure.
I'm Ron Flanders, president of the Pickleball Club. As far as new things, that we collect our money because we know we do not have enough courts to maintain the need that we're going to have as future grows. That's why we have such a high wage structure. For additional stuff, improvements, we are more than happy to try to do that. And that's what the extra funds are for. Now, these things are maintenance, and like we said, we're an amenity. Tennis club is an amenity. You go to resurface those courts, $160,000 to resurface those courts. Why is pickleball getting less of an amenity than tennis? Now, but like I said, the reason we have the high dues is we want to improve our facility. We're not asking HOA to do all our improvements. Now, what board applies to our courts?
Okay, the next two items, I think we're finished with that. The next two items
Right. Here's the question you have to answer. Who owns the pickleball courts? If you establish the fact that the corporation owns the pickleball courts, it's our obligation to maintain them.
And I think that he's right on the fencing and the windscreens. That should be an HOA responsibility. That's an amenity. We need to take care of those. The surfacing, as long as it's good, you keep putting it off year after year until it comes to the point where it's not good. And you can resurface that even though you don't touch the fencing. We've done it before.
Yeah.
So I want to pull the thread with you, Ron. So, yep, you're collecting more dues for improvements. So there is a proposal on the next sheet for an improvement. Then why didn't you propose 100% versus 50-50 share?
Because we don't have that much money.
We don't either. Okay, well, that's a good answer.
Let's move on this. There's a repair item for the exterior wall behind the kitchen offices. I'm not going to contest that. There's a pool furniture to reserve, says that it's into its life and needs to be replaced. I put both those things in the safety category. I wouldn't pick or either one. Okay, I think, Bill, that we're pretty much done with you. You want any,
CapEx items, or do you want
the
me
only
to?
two items you got are on the next page. You're gonna hang around?
Sure, this is
Okay. Okay, let's move on a bit here. This is a camp. Our camp guys here, right? Aha. Okay. Some of this stuff is a little confusing to me. I know we've got 3 Kubotas listed. They are all 10 years old?
Yes. That or plus, actually, I didn't know that we were going to be talking about reserve budgets that CAPEX. So I'm not 100% prepared for that, but I can answer some of the questions regarding
Put that mic right next to your face.
Is that better? There we go. Yeah, I've got a 2024 that completely burned up, and we're getting insurance funding for that, I guess, because we submitted a claim for that. But we've got
it burned up?
Yeah, it caught fire. We had an insurance issue that we got to deal with. And then we've got
Then we've got a 2015 that has a bad transmission that we need to replace because of that issue.
Okay.
We've got another one that's completely out because it has a transmission that needs to be replaced. That's $13,000 just alone to replace that. And that was a 2016.
Okay.
So those three are the ones that we need to get taken care of, but the one is paid for by insurance.
Only two is not need funding.
Yes.
So scratch one of the 29.
Yeah.
So scratch one.
Yeah. Got it. I know about the 5-ton dump trailer. You don't have a trailer, you need one, right?
We've got a dump trailer. Right now, we need a couple more. We've got one that's funded for this year. We're going to get for the level 3 crew. And then we need to get another one for the level 2. Right now, the level 1 crew is the only one that has the dump trailer. And I am purchasing one. I'm looking for one right now for the 2025 budget. That's actually going to be for level 3. And then, but we still need, this one is for level 2.
So one of those line items, which of those line items is a new item, not a replacement item?
They're actually, yeah, those are all replacement.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
The reserves that previous reserves showed 3 trailers in reserves. A Trail King, which was purchased in 2023, Big Tex, and an unknown one, which I assume is the Carson one you're referring to. Is that
Yes.
unknown one that I have? Okay.
Okay. So you could cut more trash than you could haul. You're developing that.
Well, you'll take a look at what I'm spending in refuse here soon, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
The backhoe is a replacement for the smaller Kubota that is 10 years plus, and it's breaking down.
All the items on this list that we're looking at, on this page, are all replacement items, there's no new items.
Okay, there's some vehicles in here that we need to talk about at least briefly. Darren, I think that Dale has kind of acted as a fleet manager, if you will, to kind of keep track of vehicles. Is that, were you going to continue that practice?
Not clear on your question, Ray.
Okay. My question is this. You know, we get vehicles come up on an annual basis. And it's sometimes very difficult to track what happened to the old vehicles, all right? We're not really sure what happened to them when they were disposed of. We're not really sure whether they were handed off for somebody else to use. We went through a lot of this last year, and it found it very difficult to try to come up with what really happened to all the vehicles. So what I'm asking is there someone that you have in charge to give us a view of what our vehicle usage is?
Yes, Dale Tate works with our vehicles, and so does a lot of them.
Okay, so we can look to Dale to do that.
Right.
All right. I think that's an important function because it gets pretty confusing. Now you're going to replace the first Dodge Ram is to replace 120, and 120 is going to be junked or auctioned or what?
No, actually, we're going to move the 120 to the 111 guy that's using 111 right now. That's the irrigation truck. Currently, the 111 truck has 160,000 miles on it already. It's breaking down left and right. It's having some issues even making it up hills. So there's a lot of issues with that truck. So that's the one that we're going to actually utilize to sell off and bring on a newer vehicle. And I was going to take the 120 truck and actually give that to the irrigation truck.
Okay.
So
this is trash here. it says that it's trash here.
Yeah, I've got another one too.
So, Larry, it shows three vehicles, 24 Ram, 24 Ram, 24 Ram. You say we replace the 120 vehicle with a new one, and we give a 120 to 11.
Yes.
111. So, the net,
For the new, for next year, that I was going to move the 120 vehicle to 111 and the new vehicle.
so what's the net purchase, just two vehicles?
Yes.
So the net purchase is only two vehicles, and we'll clarify that.
We will net two out. Okay?
Yeah, the other vehicle actually is 113, and it has 167,200 miles on it. And it too is being about the same thing, burning oil, sensor issues. The ECM is not working, which is the main computer for it.
So in the end, you're only purchasing two, so the 111 is, since you're moving the 120 to 111, that's not a new purchase.
Correct.
There's three bids, but only two net purchases.
But the person that's driving the 120 needs another vehicle as well in order to deal with that. So that's why we need two vehicles.
Right.
Okay. The backhoe and front loader, what kind of a plan do you have for that? What's that going to be used for?
What kind of what, I'm sorry?
The backhoe.
What kind of use? Well, right now we're using the Kubota, which is a backhoe. It's a smaller backhoe and a front end loader. But it just doesn't do a whole lot. But it's 12 years old. So
is it inadequate or it doesn't work anymore?
No, it's breaking down, and we are utilizing it still. It's just not carrying big enough loads. We could do something a little bit more if we had a bigger piece of equipment as well. So instead of replacing it with an identical type of vehicle, we want to go ahead and increase that.
Would that give us an opportunity to reduce some contracted services?
I'm sorry?
Would that give us an opportunity to reduce some contracted services?
Yes, actually, it would reduce a little bit of contracting services for some things. If you're asking me what, right off the top of my head, I don't know.
Yeah, one of the disciplines that we miss, and Cassie can blame here at all, is we really don't go through these things and say, okay, there really is a cost benefit here that I'd like to talk about. And we don't see that. So we ask questions and bubble around the subject, when really what we're interested in is, okay, you're going to spend $80,000. You're going to save you something along it?
We're going to do everything.
We're going to be able to reduce contractors. Where's my payoff here?
We're going to do a little bit of that also. We're going to definitely replace some of the contractor use of it, but also we'll probably be sharing it with Ray over here in the golf department as well. So that they have a case, 520, I think it is, also 580, that they have, and we're basically going to, there'll be one, it will be able to be used at the reserve, and then also one down here. It just makes it a little handier for everybody to be able to share the vehicle and take care of what needs to be done on the property, both golf and cam.
A reduction in operating, you said reduction in contractors, will that show up as a reduction in operating expenses?
Well, I can't tell you exactly where that reduction is going to show up at, but it definitely will be utilized a lot more than what we're utilizing the smaller Kubota for.
Or will it show up before the budget is finalized?
I would guess yes. I would say yes.
Do you have any idea about how much you spend on contractors doing that type of work right now?
Well, right now I just did a job down on the Overlook, up in Overlook, for cleaning out of a square tube culvert. It's a 6x5 box culvert that was filled with sand. I could have done that a lot faster, but the bid from a contractor to have that done was $70,000. And I used a smaller Kubota, got it done in a fairly decent amount of time, but I could have done it a lot quicker with that device.
But I guess that's what Ray is asking, though. That's the cost benefit. That's the positive that I see of your request, and I'm just like to support back behind that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, there are a lot of culverts.
There's a total workman in here too, and I'm not going to belabor that. Anybody have any additional questions for Larry here?
Yeah, Ray.
Yes.
Sure.
Ray, I just want to point out to you, if I can encourage everybody to take a drive down 67 and watch the work where the goats have gone through and the CAM team has gone through, you will see that the water is not flowing out to our culvert system. It's pooling in various areas down those two holes, and that's the problem we have across the entire community. Cleaning up these drainage culverts is real work that needs to get done.
Thanks.
And we currently also have a mini excavator that we're actually utilizing some of the smaller areas, but using this bigger piece of equipment will utilize it in a much more efficient way and be able to get done with the job a little bit quicker.
Okay. As we pass Larry here to the Mike's ball picker. I understand the problem with the ball picker. I'm not going to belabor that.
Simple enough. Yeah, the ball picker, that was supposed to be a 25 item, and we pushed it back to 26, and of course, as soon as we did that, we started having problems with them, so.
Okay, I am interested in, I know a lot of things with wheels in your mind here, I guess. I know there are. Use your mic, right? Pardon? Use your mic. I am interested in the items that are in the maintenance area. And at least reading through the sheets, the sense that I got is that there's some possibility for repair, some of these. And just wonder how we're taking full advantage of repair opportunities. Just a question.
Yeah, I've got Ray Nielsen, our Mountain View Superintendent. Mark is actually on vacation today. So Ray's just going to talk real quick about those items on there for you.
Okay, on the Toro Sampro 5040s, those are the machines that we use to rake the bunkers. That's 4 units, 2 for each golf course. The units that we have are quite worn, and they get used every single day. Without those units, we will have to like double the workforce in order to get the bunkers raked on.
We don't want you to double the work.
We don't need to do that. So those are really important to us, and the ones they're hydraulically driven, and they're starting to move slower and slower as the pumps are wearing, and that's really expensive items to fix. If we were to try to repair those, the cost to repair would be greater than what would be to replace.
That's a useful comment for any time you are fill out one of these forms. Just make sure that we understand, that repair was considered and found that it was excessive with respect to the purchase price.
I assume that there is a significant amount of other items that were in the previous reserve study. Have those being pushed to further years?
Yes, Mark and I went and looked at those, talked with Darren as well, and that we pushed back, if I remember, Darren, about $500,000 worth, extended that out further.
I wanted to bring that out, because
Yeah.
that was my thing, what I thought I saw.
Yep.
And you guys are looking at the stuff and seeing where you really.
100%, and now that we have our 2 technicians, our mechanics on staff, it's really been helpful, where they've been able to maintain these a lot longer, we'll be able to maintain a lot longer.
Thank you very much, appreciate that.
Can you explain the bio-wash situation?
So on the wash bay for the preserve, right now, just similar to the one at Mountain View, the one at Mountain View was dropped off last week. The one for the preserve, it washes but doesn't do anything else. So we're able to spray off the turf, the clippings, but then that's the end of it. We're actually not able to clean the actual unit the way it needs to.
So does that mean we're going to use less water if we make this investment?
Also, that system, what it does is it's when they wash the mowers, everything goes down into a little sump. It separates the solids from whatever gets washed off the machines, whether it's petroleum products, fertilizers, pesticides, or whatever. it sends it through the machine, it cleans it before the water goes out, so we're protecting the environment also with that. And we're putting out clean water to sewer as we use it.
And that's the same reason why we replaced the one down at Mountain View, because environmentally, it's a concern, the way they're functioning.
Thank you.
I was a little confused about the ground masters. Because at least if I read it correctly, it looks like you got two of them that are down and parted out. Yeah.
There are some that were derelict and those are gone.
Well, let me ask you a different question. How many do you see you have?
We have now?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are two that have been up at the preserve. Mountain View has none of those 4300s right now.
That's free.
So there's two of them there that were requesting the 4300s. The 3500s are a smaller machine. What we use around the smaller areas like around the putting green, chipping green, around the.
I'm talking about the 4300s.
The 43s those are replacements for the Jacobsons that we parted out and are no longer functional.
Okay, so you have any that would operate?
What's that?
You have any 4300s?
No, not any 4300s that are operating now.
So what are you using the parts for?
The Jacobson units that we had that the 4300 would replace were parted out and were sent to scrap.
Okay, I give up. Okay, the other two ground masters are the same sort of thing, but just a smaller scale?
Smaller scale, so again, talking about efficiency, right? Staff efficiency. These areas are able to get into these lower areas up near bunkers, as Ray said, chipping green, putting green, or we're able to drive at a little quicker pace than stand behind on a push bike, walk behind.
Well, let me ask you two questions I already asked. There's a lot of this equipment. Is there a master list, an index, somebody who keeps track of this stuff so that we know what's what?
Yeah, Mark has all that information.
You have that information?
And Lotto has it too.
Yep.
And
Lotto has it as well.
Lotto maintains our fixed asset inventory, so he's the point when anytime anything changes, it's got to go to Lotto.
Okay, great. So there's a spot we can go to.
Correct.
Kind of get an overall look at what the stuff is. Okay. Any other questions for Mark? Hello back there. Okay. The only other item on the list is the asphalt repaving, and there had been another item there on the old reserve study that you folks pulled out of this year. So that was repaving the Mountain View parking lot. So we're in at about $1 million on that repaving. Okay.
Are we seal coating anything this year?
Yeah, seal coat bids are coming in right now. I don't know the schedule. I saw the schedule.
I meant for next year, for 2026.
Yeah, there should be seal coating in every single year.
Okay.
And there was discussion with Jerry and Ray the other day about the seal coating not being in one of the versions. Is it in now?
No, not yet.
Not yet, so we're going to look at it.
Thank you.
We do about 20% of the community every year.
Well, I didn't see it in the reserve study, that's why I questioned.
We'll have it tied directly to the road study that we just got last year.
Okay. I think we're ready for new business. Okay, this is new CAPEX. Terry made an initial determination that all of this would be funded by CIF. And that's a sensible thing if these have not been included in the reserve study in the past, because it represents a new thing. Once any of these are approved, if they are approved, then they would move to the reserve study and be included in the reserve study in the future as a regular part of that. So when we say it's new CAPEX funded in CIF, I want to make sure that folks understood that it was going to stay there forever. That's simply where the funding mechanism is located to purchase this originally. Okay. There are a number of items on this list that either have no cost associated with them, or have not had a quote provided. We're not going to waste any time with those. I don't know how to deal with them. So, just a comment, maybe for those in attendance who have an interest, is that if you really want something to be done by the association, try and tell us everything you can about it. Do a little homework and make sure that we understand, where you got your numbers. Don't leave blanks for us to fill in, because nobody's going to do that. I'm sure that somebody with a good heart would look at live music being played at the patio and decide that that was something that we really wanted to fund. But frankly, I doubt it. Okay, we're going to get past the man crossing here. And the Cholla Library shelving. I have a question about that. Is this one of the places that we're considering an alternative use?
Correct.
Okay.
I'm Janet Faker, I'm the director of the Saddlebrook Community Libraries, and I'm a volunteer. And I just want to give you a background for the reason that this item is on your agenda today. First of all, the Troy Library is one of the 3 libraries in the Saddlebrook Community Library system. It's not a club. The libraries are not a club. We're an amenity in both HOA 1 and HOA 2. The Troy Library is a small library. It's an honor system library. It's not staffed to regular hours. It only holds about 11% of the total items in the library collection, but it accounts for 25% of the circulation of items in the library system, so it's really heavily used and very popular. In fact, it loans out about 1,000 books each month. And if you've ever seen the book drop on a Monday morning with everything falling out, you'll understand that. As a little background, when the clubhouse, the Mountain View Clubhouse, was remodeled in 2013, we worked with the library designer to determine the best use for that oddly shaped space. And in the 12 years since then, the center island shelving, not around the walls, but the center island shelving has been reconfigured several times to try to add space and work a little bit better. It has become makeshift and unsightly. We have a movable cart at one end, we have a wooden platform, the shelves are nicked and scratched. So that particular piece of shelving is what we're talking about replacing it. So it's a partial replacement of the library shelving. Everything on the walls would stay as it is. So it's just for that, well, one of the 2 other small items which I'll mention in a minute. So when we learned that the carpet in the clubhouse was scheduled for replacement, I started working with Bill again, because he said everything would have to come out of the library, and I thought perfect time to look at, making some changes and replacements. So after considering about 4 different items, I worked with the same library designer that helped us originally, and we recommended and Bill approved a sort of zigzag or serpentine design of freestanding shelving. I actually have a picture that I can pass around here. Give you a little better idea. It would look similar to this, but it would be about 12 inches higher. So if anybody wants to pass that around and look at it, it's actually quite attractive. It would be placed on a diagonal across the center of the library. It would be 60 inches high instead of 42. Double face shelving and a wood tone that very nearly matches the existing shelving. Of course, we weren't able to match it exactly because wood changes over time. There are some corner pieces that would allow for display of books, and it's just much more attractive. It meets all the ADA and fire code requirements as far as spacing, and Bill has approved that design. So the request also includes 2 other freestanding shelving units. One would replace the book cart at the end of the paperback shelving. The other would be the place where the existing book return is. That book return is going to be replaced. Bill has assured me that he will be purchasing that this year, we hope. But it would be located in a different part of the library because of the configuration. It would no longer be able to be replaced in that corner. And that book return is over 20 years old, and the locking mechanism has been replaced so many times it can't be repaired any further, so it's time to buy something new. So the new shelving unit in that corner would be 72 inches high and would increase the shelving capacity for that fiction collection. So again, to be clear, we're requesting replacement for only part of the shelving in the library to increase capacity and improve appearance. The cost that we got, the price was good through the end of June of this year. The original estimate was just slightly over $8,500 for the 3 items, including tax and shipping. So I factored in an increase, not knowing how much that might go up, because the vendor said it probably would go up. The shelving is manufactured in the U.S., so hopefully not subject to tariffs. So I requested $9,500, but not knowing exactly what the cost might be. So this would be a one-time thing, and because it's a replacement, Bill recommended to go into the research funding. Questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, I appreciate that. I would say this. Again, this is a spot where maybe the facilities committee or Darren and his folks would be interested in looking at some alternatives. My guess is that we'll probably send back some questions and say, look, let's just make sure that we make a decision about where we want to go before we start spending some money on it. Okay, I'm going to skip over the pickleball courts because if I don't, we'll never get to everything else. So, lifestyle director, Liz. Liz here, I saw her earlier. There she is. Okay, let's come and talk to us about your outdoor permanent lighting.
This is a pretty cool project, and Liz loves the stage, you know.
All right, so yeah, we're requesting $30,000 to do permanent LED lighting on the trim of the main Mountain View Clubhouse. So just a little process right now is Bill and Larry, they both donated about 5 guys each, and it takes, for install and taking down the holiday lights right now, it's about collectively 32 hours. Plus we rent a lift, which is $2,400. So, the ROI, we would be saving money in year 3, just with
I love it when you say ROI.
Get the warm and fuzzies. So these are the lights that would be installed. They go in a housing that matches the exterior color of the building, so you don't see them during the day. They do all different colors. They do different zones, so we can use them for 4th of July. Whatever. We could use them year round. So it's efficient and it's multi-use and it's great.
What's the lifespan?
Lifespan on this is an average of 15 years, but we put 10 for reserve just so we can push it. We don't want to be chasing the tail.
Plus, there's a risk management element, putting our guys up on ladders and doing all that stuff we do currently.
And it's cleaner without extension cords everywhere and all of that.
We'll stop you to do that. Okay, thank you.
Liz, yeah. Is it LED? If it's less than 1 watt.
Ron, let me have it.
Yes, it will.
Darren, your item is here for adding the forward sheet. I assume this is at the reserve, right?
Right, this is just a placeholder. I don't have the real number, but I suspect that's a good number.
And this is one of the items, I believe, that the golf committee talked about in terms of playability.
Correct. Correct.
So this is not an unanticipated expense. It is kind of following along with the 31 plan. Okay. Any questions about that?
Just one.
Shoot.
We have in the non-CIF reserves, regular reserves, for a preserve X number of dollars. My only question is why does it make sense to use this out of CIF as opposed to allocating it from the reserve fund, if you will? Does that make sense?
Agreed. Agreed. I think it can fit in both places, but it can easily fit in the reserve because it's a renovation of an existing asset.
To me, that would be my only comment is that money's already there. the plans that may change once we get a new architect did call for 4 Ts, so it's not doing anything that wouldn't be done at some point anyway.
I think it could go to reserves as well, don't they?
So there's no objections,
I have to say that I think it goes out of the CIF because it is brand new. It's not something that you're renovating. You're renovating the course, yes, but it's a brand new item on the course. That's kind of my argument for it.
Terry, there are existing forward tees, they're not formal. So you can make the argument however you all want to categorize it, honestly.
Does it really make any difference?
I think the important fact is it's going to generate revenue if we have it.
To Gene's point, for those of you that aren't golfers, I think we have approximately 9 4 tees that essentially piggyback off the ladies' tees, and then we have makeshift tee markers for seniors that are out in the fairways. And what this would do is simply create more of a formal tee block for those 9 missing senior tees, if you will. We're all seniors, but you know what I mean.
I knew somebody made that comment. Okay. All right. Carpet cleaning. Bill McKinnon. I don't, we're hiring a third party now. We're gonna save some money on this thing?
Roughly we'll save, right now I do about $7,000 a year just cleaning carpets around the areas. We don't have a carpet cleaner this size, so we have to
Save
hire that.
$500 anyway, right?
I'm gonna save you at least 90% of the work will be done in-house. Every once in a while, we might have to call in a contract cleaner, but I would say ROI would be about 1.5 years.
So you would just use existing staff, someone to do that duty?
We would. It'd all be done in-house.
I think the expansion of the storage structure behind the admin building is kind of a long-standing thing. I've seen plans for it and all that business, right?
Yeah, I actually handed out a little pamphlet on the storage, but, it speaks for itself. We all know that there's not a lot of storage for facilities around here. We're looking to, I was moved from our storage into where the holiday storage used to be. What I'd like to do is expand upon that holiday storage to give me more storage and possibly office space back there. I gave out a map and diagrams. I think if we get the new equipment, those of you that know, most of my equipment sits out in the cart barn. A lot of it gets exposed to a lot of the weather. If we purchase this $6,000 piece of equipment, we would like to have a house somewhere decent, and I need the storage space to do that. So it's twofold, but as to Larry's point, if we build a new expansion off of CAM and I happen to get a building or the facilities gets a building down there, that could be 2-3 years down the road. Like I said earlier, I planned on if we move out of this space ever, it could be repurposed into something else. There's no problem, it wouldn't have any issues of being made into an office, being made into different stores, being made into whatever you guys.
Big enough for a library?
Big enough for a library, we can put in yeah, it'd be fantastic.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Okay, I got some items for Larry here. The first is a Rainbird Smart Controller. Which course is that?
Actually, it's a common area. It's the common areas. There's probably...
Oh, common area, okay.
I think there's 6 total controllers. 4 of them, we want to go ahead and put some monitoring systems to it, and replace the controller, and then 2 of them we can retrofit to actually work with it. This is...
Where's that thing located? How did it go down?
There's one at the Preserve, there's a couple here at Mountain View, there's a couple at Desert View, and then also the front entrance area.
Okay.
But we're trying to do everything that we can to keep an eye on the irrigation water that's actually being utilized, so that we can start saving some on irrigation water, and then also on loss of plants and keeping the home values up so that, you know, when you have dead plants around, it obviously is going to affect sales and so on and so forth. Again, I can tell you just with my involvement with the irrigation system and working with the CAN crew, if you rank the irrigation system from 1 to 10, 10 being the best, this irrigation system is made up of 3 or 4 different makers, right? And it's all patched together and probably ranks about 2 on the scale. So it needs some work, and it will benefit our common area landscape for sure.
There's been some talk in previous years about pulling a lot of the grass out of Mountain View. The thought has been that when we get to the point of maybe when we're going to start to replace the irrigation system there, would be the time to consider doing that. I don't know what the savings would be if that some of that grass was pulled out and replaced with rock or whatever, with some plantings. But the time to start thinking about that is when we're starting to deal with that irrigation system.
That's a fair point, and I hadn't thought of that, but I'll share an example of something in the Gulf area that Mike and others have been involved in that made a huge difference aesthetically. I think generally speaking, it's fair to say that we don't have a lot of green areas around our clubhouses and whatever to begin with compared to a lot of other clubs. We used to have dormant Bermuda in the areas around, for example, our golf course practice area and the golf shops. And I think it was last year, Mike had Troon overseed those little areas, cost relatively, you know, very, very little. And aesthetically, it just made such a big difference. I think it's great that you're bringing it up before we do spend more money, but just personally, from an aesthetic standpoint, I love the little amount of grass that we already have. I wouldn't want there to be less, but that's just my personal opinion.
Well, there's going to be mixed opinions about that throughout the entire association. Obviously, the board is one that controls whether the grass stays or goes, but I know a lot of the homeowners associations that I've always worked with, where there's grass, usually you're going to get a little bit of a stink when you try to remove it, just because of the fact that they come from back east. They like the green. They bought their home here because of the green and so on. But whatever the board wants, we can remove it. But whether there's turf there or whether there's regular drip irrigation there, which means I need to even monitor it more, because when the turf irrigation is stuck on, I see that it's running. When the drip irrigation is stuck on, I can't tell that it's running unless I see a puddle that's being made. So in that situation, an alarm would be sent to my irrigation tech's phone, letting them know that there's an irrigation issue, it's wasting water. Shut it down, the flow control would shut it off because it's wasting water. And then my irrigation tech would be notified via text or email to let them know that there's an issue with a certain station. And then he would go and take care of the issue and resolve it. That way we're not losing grass, and we're also not losing any kind of plant that irrigation is supplying, or wasting the water back into the ground that we don't need to pay for. I mean, we would have to pay for it, but we don't want to pay for that kind of that waste. So it's important that we watch over what we're utilizing as far as irrigation goes. And this project actually spread it apart upon the entire year, so that I can split that $30,000 up in quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Say that again. So the $30,000 is going to be invested over 4 quarters?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what about your mini excavator? What is that thing?
Okay. The mini excavator, basically, what we've got, we already have the mini excavator. What we need is a mulching head to put on top of it to utilize the. It's a device that we actually attach to the mini X
to the hydraulic system that's on it.
So are you doing anything now?
We are using the Mini-X right now, but basically the Mini-X is used just for the culvert cleanouts and so forth and so on. It was being utilized for some of the level 5, 6 cleanup areas, but it was kind of damaging the hillside and it was tearing it up more than what it should have been. In this situation here, this mulcher that I want to put on the end of in place of the backhoe in this situation, it would go down into the basins. The basins, I'm okay scarifying because we need to keep those scarified anyway so that you have good drainage. With this device, it would actually be able to reach out along the edges of the basins and mow down the stuff by putting it on top of it and then just pushing it down and mulching it, kind of like a chipper, only without having to detach the tree or the shrub to throw it through a chipper.
Are you doing that outside now or just not doing it?
Right now, we're chopping them off at the base and then dragging them over to a chipper and throwing them through a chipper. Okay, this basically, I don't have to remove it. It just mows it right down, start at the top of it, and just go right down until it's at the stub. And basically chip it all up on the bank of where we're doing the work at. But I want to do my best to try to keep the Mini-X that has, bulldozer type tracks, and then also the skid steer that has bulldozer type tracks. So that we're not tearing that ground up. Driving straight on it is not a problem. When you turn it around and when you move it, that's what tears up the ground. And when we do that, you're bringing up seeds that have been laying dormant there for eons. And then now that you're pulling them up into the germination zone, the next rain, you're going to get a bunch of weeds coming up. And I really want to try to eliminate that problem so that we can replace it really nice.
Rick?
No.
Tell me about your parking lots, we currently renting one or what?
Okay. That one is a no-brainer, I think, in my opinion. Basically, we're looking at $18,000 to budget on this. I've got one that I'm looking at right now. Arrow Rental has one for sale, and they're looking at between $13,000 and $15,000 or $16,000, if I remember right. They haven't put a price on it yet, but it's going to be a 2018 to 2020 that they're going to sell me. So they don't know which one it is yet. But if I'm going to be doing street sweeping, and we're getting contracts right now to do all the parking lots 2 times every month for both these 3 facilities, the Desert View, the Preserve, and Mountain View. And just in a year's time, just the cost to do that with a third party is $32,000 a year.
That's a no-brainer. Okay.
That's what I said. So on to the next one.
I buy 2 of them.
This is being used in the parking lots, or is it going to be used on the streets?
No, it'll be the parking lot areas only because it's a small, it's like a Zamboni type of,
Okay.
of street sweep. It's not the full-size truck.
Is this going to eliminate some of the blowing you do, or?
Yes, it will, up along the buildings. Like I said, it's going to get done 2 times a year, or 2 times a month. And that'll be at night when all the parking lot is cleared. And then they'll go around all of the curbs and take care of all that stuff, which will lighten the load for our part-time employee that basically does curbing, all the time.
No new staffing.
No new staffing. We'll put him on it and have him come in the evening or something like that, or one of the other staff that wants to come in once every 2 weeks or so and do that.
I had a question on the stump grinder. Do they make a stump grinder attachment for the Mini-X that we can look at?
The problem with doing that on the Mini-X, and yes, they do make one, the problem with doing that in the Mini-X is I can't get it into tight areas. I wouldn't be able to get it between gates and doorways. The one that I'm looking at, I believe, you got a picture of it here. Yeah. This one here is basically 48 inches wide and go through gates, doorways, whatever I need to put it through, and take care of the job. We got hundreds of stumps everywhere that need to be taken down. And it's just something that when you take down a tree, you should do that anyways. Just to make sure that not only the stump is gone, but also the roof layer as well. So that it looks like that tree was never actually there.
So when you're doing that, I noticed when, after the preserve got grass changeover, they cut down a lot of trees, and there were stumps, and there was a company that came in there and did that. So are you guys sharing this, or can you share that with others so that they don't have to bring in outside people to grind the stumps that were out there?
Well, we're going to be taking care of the preserves also. We'll be doing all that, all the golf course. Well, the golf course will be able to utilize this also.
That's my
We
question.
we can.
Need the outside service.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we can definitely let them use it. It's not going to be something that I'm going to have constantly working constantly after I get all of the stumps cleaned up. But when we have tree removals that take place also, instead of telling them to cut and grind the stump, we'll just be telling them to cut the stump because we'll grind it and save the money there as well.
The sweeper for the parking lots, how many hours a month would you estimate here to use that?
How many hours a month? What?
Would you use as parking lot sweeper?
The parking lot sweeper, in my opinion, the experience that I've had in doing parking lots, you're probably looking at this facility here taking anywhere from 2 to 3 hours to complete all of the area because they do get out and below the parking lot area, the curbs and so on, so that they don't have to, butt right up against the curb constantly, push everything out. So you're looking at 2 to 3 hours every 2 weeks being done just here at Mountain View.
Okay, so Mountain View, Desert View, and Preserve, how many hours a month would you estimate that machine would be used?
It's going to be going 2 times, so you're probably looking at 16 hours, probably 2 times a week, so 32 hours a month.
Okay, is there any way that you can share that with HOA1 and have them share the cost?
I'd have to ask Patrick, but I don't know why they would refuse to do that. If they wanted to, I guess it's something we could look into.
Okay, thank you.
But we could probably afford 2 of them.
Okay. Yeah. A lot of times we have to consider it typical. And we have at least in my opinion, a creative way to try to extend the amount of pickleball that takes place for increasing the temperature and for at least some people however, it's expensive.
People can't hear you.
So, we're going to talk about pickleball. I see you're still there. What I was saying was that I thought it was a creative way to try to extend the time for people to play by providing some lighting and providing some relief from the temperature. But it's expensive. And the pickleball group has agreed, has volunteered to come in with half the cost associated with that. But it's $400,000, and they're offering $200,000. So I guess I'm interested in hearing viewpoints and any questions that people might have about that. I know somebody has an opinion.
I have a question for Ron. Ron, how much revenue does the pickleball group generate on an annual basis?
About $90,000 to $100,000 a year.
Okay. So I was listening to Brad's argument earlier, and Ron's comments, why they don't pay for the whole thing, because they don't have the money. But when they did pay for half, and the association lent them the other half for a couple of years, and they paid it back to the association, then you could get the project done in 26. Just an idea.
I think this is a terrific idea. It's a mini version of what I tried to sell to HOA1 over the last 2 years. I believe it's in the community's best interest to cover those pickleball courts and go a 24/7 operate. Think long-term. What's going to separate Saddlebrook from other communities in southern Arizona? And you take HOA1 and HOA2's assets and put them together, and you present a very powerful package. Create an indoor pickleball presence in this community, and you've got something where you're playing 24/7, have all kind of tournaments that you want to have, serve the needs of our residents, and bring HOA1 to the table. In my opinion, this idea, this is something you put on your Vivian plate and something that Larry puts on his president's plate, and we try to pull HOA1 has never bellied up to the bar. 40% of your small HOA1 members?
35%.
35%. And this is a project that I would love to see us present to HOA1 as a joint project and get them to come to the table and help carry some of these costs.
Another thing this does is that the sound will be deadened going up. And you have to realize that all the homes that complain about the sound are up on the hill. This does deaden that. Lights will be in place, which are pointed down, and the roof will keep it from going up. So there wouldn't be any disruption with the people living up on the hill. So the sale to HOA1 would be, we're trying to help your residents here, and you need help with the pickleball for one time. So I think that's a great idea, Matt, to go to Vivian and say, here's the project, help your own people out here, especially those that live up on the hill that continuously complain about the situation. I remember when you built the first courts, the sheriff came down and grabbed me and said, well, we have a complaint that you're not in compliance. I had to take him up on the hill. We had to do some sound tests. He goes, well, you're in compliance. Then they went to the health department. This is bad for our health. So I had to deal with them. They came down. Once again, more sound tests. They're going, not, it meets our requirements, so these people have no complaint. But they still had a complaint. And if you lived up there, you would hear it if you're outside. And especially if the wind went a certain direction, you hear the bing, 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 bing. So this would alleviate that. So that is the sales point for HOA1.
Why is this here and not when just taken off? To me, it should be just completely taken off here.
Yeah, just
So why is this on the, to me, that should be pulled off the list completely? Because to me, they're gonna put $200,000 up, just approach HOA1 or outside and pay for it instead of the HOA2 or the CIF getting involved in this.
Okay. First of all, I want to preface what I'm about to say, which is going to be fairly harsh. Ron, pickleball is an important part for any active adult community. And Ron is a terrific advocate for that part of the HOA2 community, which is what I represent. Okay, I really don't care about the interests of HOA1, and they don't seem to care. They don't belly up to the bar, as Matt said. And I will tell you that this has a lot of overlapping issues just beyond what's here. When I hear people talk about negotiate with HOA1, I don't want HOA1 to have any rights or ownership of our facility. If they want to throw in $400,000 or $200,000 and it's all free money for an HOA2 asset, that would be wonderful. And who could not support that? But they're not going to get any rights for it. Just like they don't cut us any deals. This is a leverage point strategically for HOA2 in the near and intermediate term future. And we can't do anything that compromises that. Now, that's just essentially treason in my mind. I will will tell you right now that there's not 4 votes for this on the board, okay? Don't take it personally. I love pickleball, you know my wife loves pickleball, we would love this. Part of the problem we have is we didn't do this right on the front end. We did it with what little we thought we could spend in a terrible location, frankly. And it's not oriented towards HOA2, but we can't keep compounding that problem. So, to Joe's point, I would recommend that you don't bring this up in front of the board, because it'll be a more awkward conversation than this in front of a lot more people. If HOA, to Darren's point, if HOA 1 wants to cough up with $200,000 with no strings attached, yeah, you can bring it up then, and that's an easy vote. It doesn't cost us anything strategically, and it doesn't cost us anything financially. We don't have the money, even if we did want to do this, okay? We're having to make a lot of tough decisions as it goes. So again, don't take this personally, you're just doing what you're trying to do.
But Brad, if I was HOA 1, I would argue I should take care of 35%, representing their percentage.
They haven't been doing that.
But I'm just saying, you know, that could be a reasonable compromise to consider.
Brad's point is, if they want to consider taking care of 35% of den space, of all the other things that they use, then and that's where the problem lies.
I kind of like Karen's idea, though, of maybe lending them the money to do this, because they're getting 90 grand a year in for dues, and they really have very little cost any longer. It's not like the old days, so I guess they buy balls now.
I would consider that.
Okay, the only other comment I would,
I'm sorry, I missed it, you want to talk to somebody else, right?
the only other comment I would offer is that if this were included, we're going well over the recommendation that the board has made with respect to CAPEX spending for the year. So I would be more than happy to give the pickleball folks a little opportunity to talk about this if you want to do that.
I would love to. I appreciate you guys considering this call. I know it's a big ask. What we spend our money on, all right? First, it's a $2.5 million facility, and HOA, I don't know what annual cost is from maintaining that the HOA is taking care of, but the HOA contributed $310,000 to this $2.5 million facility. The rest of it was funded by us and our sponsors. I think we spend our money on our pickleball machines, balls, wind socks, $18,000 shed, because our building, shade structures, bike racks. We spend a lot of money on our facility without bothering the HOA. So it's not like we're just languishing the money and going on trips to out. As far as also on the chart, it says lifespan of 15 years. The lifespan, it's warranty for 20 years, lifespan is 25 years. I understand HOA starts struggling with money. Brad, my question to you is, what about Darren's point about loaning it and then we pay it back?
So behind the scenes and at some point in time, either late in this board's term or the next board's term, the entire topic of the reciprocal is going to come up. The facilities planning committee is already, what they're trying to struggle with is, we'll use pickleball, but I'm not, this goes to softball fields, swimming pools, so many out of our assets. The demand for our pickleball courts and what we spent is really irrelevant. It's, we own them. What if 35% of the demand disappears because of the reciprocal? And politically, that's where the majority is in the community. all right? And so from a facilities planning committee standpoint, and I wish Roger were here or Janine were here, they would argue is, how can we, there's Roger, how can we make an investment that is demand-driven to some extent, for your argument, when that demand may significantly alter just a few years down the road. Now, Darren's point that if you will pay for all of it and we'll help you with time, that's a great option. And I had not thought of that. And there may be a majority support for that. I think that would be a great recommendation for you to work with Darren and resubmit to the Finance Committee. And I suspect that we could probably get a majority of the board to vote yes on that.
Let me just say one more thing on this. What we're not doing here is setting priorities. Right now, the Alta survey is being done on the new land that we have the opportunity to purchase in order to build maintenance facilities for Cam, for golf, for Bill. That is the priority. That's going to take a lot of SIF funding. This would cut into that and maybe stop us from completing that project, which is a must, not a want or a desire. That's something that has to be done for this community.
I think the board needs to look at this as a learning experience, and before another opportunity comes up where somebody wants to make a club an amenity, we need to look at the long-term expense and what we're committing to over the next 5 to 10 years. Right now, when I was on the board, when they decided to recommend this be made an amenity, nothing was presented to us of how much this is going to cost over the next 5 to 10 years. It was just said, let's make it amenity, without knowing what the long-term, but now we're talking about 200,000 there, I don't think we should have thought about this a lot clearer before we decided to make this an amenity.
I got a question over the whole thing here. We're eliminating CAPEX out of ops this year. In past years, we have had about $300,000 in CAPEX out of operations. Apparently, it's going to zero this year. It's all coming out of CIF. Am I missing anything here? I'm sorry?
Nothing's correct. You're correct.
You know what? You would have done a reversal on that CIF in the past?
What do you mean?
Well,
What do you mean by reversal?
That's the point, I think. Well, that's the point, I think, was that in the past, we've not used the CIF as a vehicle for this. Is that correct?
I think he's saying that some stuff was, instead of coming out of CIF, it was coming out of what operations generates.
CAPEX out of operations, this year we said CAPEX out of operations should not exceed $300,000. We didn't set any limit on what came out of CIF. The way this is structured now is everything's coming out of CIF, nothing is coming out of ops, other than some existing leases, most of which are about to expire in the next year or so.
It's more than that, but yeah.
So pretty much all the CIF inflows are going into reserves. So for any capital expenditures that are for new things, therefore we can't be using reserve money. The only place it can come from is operations, and I assume that's what started that process, I don't know how many years ago. It predates me. The key thing that I keep sharing with people is that we have let me digress for about 2 minutes, Ray. We have about a $3.5 million run rate on average using current dollars that we have to plow into reserves every year to keep our head above water. And luckily, we do have quite a bit of cash that has been saved, and that's essentially a shock absorber, because not every year is $3.5 million. One year it's going to be 13 million, another year it's 2 million. The problem is operations is not generating net income plus depreciation of at least that $3.5 million. And in the back of all of our minds, and the finance committee, when we're looking at all these reserve situations, or CAPEX, which is for new stuff, we have to keep in mind what those financial constraints are. And right now, we've got about $1 million a year in variance between where we would like to have our net operating cash flow from operations being every year. So that's why, I would love to put a dome over over pickleball. I'd love to have another golf course. I'd love to blow out the Mountain View restaurant and all that stuff, but it's just, we're constrained.
Okay. Are we done? At this point, I'll ask if there are any committee member comments that you haven't had an opportunity to express. Anything from the board? For the guests? You folks all had an opportunity to say something? There's Roger. Hi, Roger. Okay. This meeting is adjourned.